representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of God.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of Open Conversation on Atlantic Television Network right here in Port Harcourt. Open Conversation is the network's flagship political platform through which trending political news, events and stories are discussed with stakeholders. Through these conversations, ATN uses political talks about specific issues, party systems and actors to explore hope and engender positive impact to the society. I am your host, Raymond Ken Mbata, holding sway for Laurentia Ogu. And before I introduce our guests, let's take this very short break, and when we come back, we go straight into the issues for today. Stay tuned.
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of God.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Glad to have you back on ATN Open Conversation. On the topics for discussion today, we have police declare ex-militant leader wanted. In Edo State, the speaker ejects deputy majority leader for improper attires. In Ondo State, APC leaders join PDP citing internal democracy. In Sokoto State, Murik criticizes Sokoto Assembly over the Emirates bill. Article urges monarchs' protections and constitutional acceptance of the monarchs. And in politics, Tinubu not discriminating against Norths, says VP Shetima. To discuss and dissect these issues today, we have our guest, Dr. Nelson D.C. Okene of the Department of Political Science in the University of Port Harcourt. It's a pleasure having you here, sir.
My pleasure, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
On to the first topic for discussion today. Police in Rivers State have declared former Niger Delta militant leader Gabriel General Asabuja wanted following a viral video where he made threatening remarks amidst local government council disputes. The Commissioner of Police, Tunji Disu, condemned Asabuja's actions for causing panic and assured the public of police efforts to apprehend him. The state has been tense due to conflicts between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and former Governor Nyesom Wike over local government tenure and leadership, leading to protests and political warnings against violence. To dissect the matters today, sir, concerning this, sir, it has been a cascade of issues following since the court case has not been dealt with concerning tenure elongation and the caretaker committee chairman and all that. So it has brought about protests and counter-protests. And we've heard of some deaths. And recently, a failed blast, a failed explosion during the protest of those loyal to the FCT minister. And now we are hearing of a viral video concerning a former militant leader apparently asking for the River State governor to stay put, and he is going to be in charge of those that are going to chase away, per se, the political opponents from distracting him. That has led to the police declaring him wanted, maybe because the verbose and all that potent security implications, sir. I want to know your input concerning this development, sir.
Well, the first thing that I will say is that the police has the responsibility to maintain law and order in the society. At least the aspect of our internal security is completely their tough.
Exactly, sir.
The other part of it is that if we are a law-governed society and we are ruled by the Constitution, we must be conscious of handling issues and nipping challenges and threats to our collective existence in the board.
Exactly, sir.
Because actions beget actions. I think I saw that viral video, and if I remember correctly, even where he was making that video, I think there were some police even around that showed in that video around him, exactly, where he was making that statement. And those were still operatives of the Nigerian police.
Exactly, sir.
The other question to ask is, he made the statements were inflammatory. It was even surprising that he would be saying that. He introduced himself as a general, even though we now describe him as an ex-militant leader. He appeared to still have all the clout, whatever it takes as a non-state actor, exactly, to act in such audacious manner. But the other thing to also remember is that sitting council chairmen also made similar, very direct inflammatory statements against the sitting governor.
Okay.
And nobody saw anything wrong with that. This is our elected governor, the topmost servant in the state, the #1 citizen in the state, and sitting council chairman, at least one, the chairman of Zato Biabo also,
okay,
made very inflammatory, derogatory statements about him, and nobody reacted. And his statements were in response to that one. So you see how actions beget actions. Again, really, the state seems to have lost it on many fronts. And I hope God helps us to manage those problems. Because we call him ex-militant. And he's supposed to have been rehabilitated and all that. But to the knowledge of all the state actors, to the knowledge of the police, the SSS and all that, these persons are still somewhat in power, holding on to whatever made them powerful then, and is still keeping on to those structures and influences. So these are some of the problems. And again, now that the police have declared him wanted, is it that it is actually out now to nip the bud of the crisis, or it is being selective? Are they being remote controlled, like they've been alleged to be acting more in support of the FCT minister? Or are they coming out now that they want to actually deal with the crisis from both sides and be neutral in making sure that the state enjoy the peace that they deserve, so that the governor that we have elected can actually do the work that the citizens have elected him to do?
Okay, sir, but be that as it may, the governor being the chief security officer,
yes,
and the #1, the #1 citizen of River State,
yeah,
ought at this point, concerning security situations, knowing how volatile River State could be when it concerns these matters, should take the first step in ensuring that there is peace and calm in River State in any way possible. Being that there are non-state actors over the period of time that have made inflammatory statements, some in support of the governor, some against the governor, and the governor has not dissociated himself from non-state actors, being that he doesn't have control over their actions, and their actions are going to be detrimental to the general safety and well-being of Rivers and all citizens living in River State, sir. Do you think the governor ought to take a stand against non-state actors and make a statement concerning that, including with this inflammatory statement this former militant leader said, sir?
Well, in terms of real politics, in terms of real politics, I don't know any governor in the state that have made that open statement to dissociate himself from the activities of these actors. Maybe the only person that will really come to my mind a bit is ex-governor Rotimi Amechi, because he was one governor in this state that actually fought those non-state actors to a very, very good, because he came in at a time when they had almost virtually taken over the state. So he was out and he did a lot at that time. After that time, I don't think anybody or before have made such statements. And what those who are in power do is they try the best they can not to run into trouble with people who have some certain level of leverage, except they have to, except their hands are forced. And under this current crisis, the boys, the control of the boys, in quotes, is a power, is a leverage for power for both parties in conflict. So some of the boys are on the part of the former governor, some are, if this person has spoken in his favor, nobody will expect him to come and condemn him. Okay. Because even the police are said to be more in favor of the minister, maybe because they are federal. But I think some elements of the police are also working with him. So it's a funny situation. But as a sitting governor, surely he has responsibility for, as the chief security officer in the state, to make sure that there is peace, there is law and order. But this is not something he does by himself. It's something he does in working with all the security agencies and all that. If we had a state police, for instance, now, then we will say, okay, this is his stuff, and he's in total control. If anything goes wrong, we'll say, this is your problem. But this is a federal police, and sometimes the federal police even work completely against the interest and the power and the instructions of the state police. So you cannot hold him 100% accountable for these things, yes.
Okay, sir, concerning the call for state police, if it comes to the part that we have to support or dissuade a proposition for a state police, using this as a case study, do you propose or do you dissuade us from going ahead with the implementation of a state police, sir?
I think that it would be proper to have a state police, because whether you like it or not, there are some form of state policing already going on. In almost all the states, they have some kind of vigilante. We have had the neighborhood watch in Rivers State. Even the attempt to keep these boys and empower them is some form of state policing. In the rural areas, what is this? The security establishment that arose from Onelga, OSPAC and all that, they are still in operation. So why not make it formal and create the laws to govern them and actually train them?
Wouldn't it arm the demigods?
They're already armed.
I mean, the governors that are already demigods.
See, these young men with under different colorations are already operating. They're already armed. They're already under the control of the governors or some other power actors within the localities or within the state. So if you create a state police, create a formal law, make people accountable, some of those boys might have the courage to stand for what is right when they know they are protected by the law. Under than a situation now where they are just acting under expediency and survivalism, where they feel that they must do whatever it takes to just stay afloat and obey the person who is in power. If they know they have the state behind them and they have some protection, they might be able to stand right and even oppose the governors. But now that they are not having that, then they are completely at the mercy of the control of whoever is the governor of the state. We cannot wish that away. The federal police is not able to man the entire country. And when you have the state police and the federal police, then it will be possible for both agencies to actually check themselves too. Share power, if something is happening, somebody will say this is what is happening, the other person will say their own. And it will create some a better security arrangement for the state.
Okay, sir.
And for the nation, yes.
Okay, sir. So concerning the present, the heated politics we're finding ourselves in, We know that we do not wish for any other person to die anymore concerning this political debacle we found ourselves in. In as much as we come here to also inform, we also want to educate. I want, being a Don, you are to give a word of advice to the warring parties on the way forward, sir.
I think I've said something to that effect somewhere else,
Okay, sir.
and I will still emphasize that. The key actors in this crisis need to know that the influence and power they enjoy is because of the states, because the citizens trusted them at some point or voted for them at some point to lead both the ex and the current, and that in whatever they do, they should consider the interest of the state. And beyond this appeal, they ought to also realize, just like the former governor is now an ex-governor, in a question of time, he will become an ex-minister. And the current governor will also become an ex, just like those before him. And there will still be states, and the posterity will judge them. Now, when you get involved in activities that cause the mindless death of young people, of innocent citizens, then that will be on you. And you never know what is going to happen tomorrow. So they need to be more careful. They need to be considerate. They need to realize that this state belongs to all of us, and that it is already a lot of privilege that you are in a position to call the shots or to have played a role in the governance of a state such as ours, something you should cherish and not continue to abuse. We need peace for the development of the state. And even for all the power and influence they have garnered, for all the resources, they still need an atmosphere of peace to enjoy that wealth and to continue to enjoy. I wonder how they even sleep, knowing all the crises and all the problems and people switching camp up and down. You don't even know who is your friend and who is your enemy. And these are people who dine together, who work together for so long. They really need to put all this conflict apart and think about the progress of the state.
Okay, sir, still in the call for peace, do we think that it is right for the... because for some time, we've not heard from the minister himself, verbatim. But, I mean, recently, the Senate committee came visiting.
Yes.
And the governor, per se, made comments that opposition were in charge of trying to blow up the explosive device very close to the living quarters, the lodging quarters of the Senate committee in Presidential Hotel, you know, kind of casting aspersions on the minister being a leader of such a move. Do you think it's high time that the governor also toes the path of silence to engender this peace that we are also asking for? What's your opinion, sir?
It might be easy for the minister to be silent, but the governor cannot be silent because he has to account for what is happening around him and in the states. And generally, you know, when there is a crisis like this, a lot of people can take advantage of that crisis for their own interests. His accusations might be true or might not be true.
Pending police investigations.
Yes. The police needs to investigate. I don't know what information he had that prompted him to make such a statement. And in his capacity as a sitting governor, surely he knows the weight of what he has said, that it is not something cheap for a governor to say. But again, it is very possible that other actors, and even those who are claiming loyalty to this other party, might do things to even inflame the atmosphere in order to take advantage of it. There's something we call in crisis the economy of violence. When there is crisis, people take advantage. People take advantage of that crisis. Millionaires and billionaires are made during crisis. Some people some local parlance has it now that people are cashing out in this crisis.
Exactly.
So for those people, they want the crisis to continue. And that is what these leaders also need to be mindful of and make more concerted efforts to make sure that this ends so that we can begin to face the issues of development.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Well, let's move on to the next topic for today. During a plenary session at the Edo State House of Assembly, the Deputy Majority Leader, Natasha Osawaru was instructed to leave due to alleged improper dressing and wearing of dark shades. The Speaker, Blessing Agbebaku, issued the order after a point of order was raised by Nicholas Asonsere, citing house rules against her attire. The Speaker, while ordering the Deputy Majority Leader to leave the chamber, said that the action was not his own making, but in accordance with the House rules. So, this particular Majority Leader is from a political dynasty. She is the granddaughter of Gabriel Osawaru Igbenidion, the Sama of Benin, whose son was also a former governor of the state at some point in time, Lucky Igbenidion. And she ought to know what it entails concerning proper dressing and presentation of herself before the House of Assembly. Was she trying to pass a point? Was she trying to make a comment? Was she trying to make a statement? Or was it that she didn't know what she was doing when she dressed before being called to order, sir?
I would not be in a position to tell or read her mind as to what her actual intentions were or what motivated her. What we deal with is what happened. But the rules, I'm sure the House rules have codes of dressing. There was a time I was observing the Rivers State House of Assembly under the governorship of Rotimi Amechi for research purposes.
Yes, sir.
And a couple of times, even when he was speaker, Amechi was speaker, they have asked, I've been there when they ask some members, no, you cannot come in like that, you're not properly there, go and they will just laugh about it and go back. Maybe he was rushing down, somebody's rushing down from somewhere. There are a lot of contingencies that can make that happen. It can also be deliberate spite on the leadership when you are not, a form of protest. So, but she will be in the right position to say why she did what she did. But it is normal. I mean, you're coming to the chambers to legislate on behalf of your people. It's a very hallowed institution.
Exactly.
And you ought to carry yourself as such. And I don't see anything wrong with asking her to go back and have herself properly presented before the House.
Okay, being the majority leader, that means that PDP is in charge of the state for now.
Yes, yes.
So, and there's an election just very close by, September 21st.
Yes.
And, asking, we don't know the reasons for Nicholas Asonsere asking for the point of order on her, concerning her. But is there nothing political about this?
No, I don't want us to read all those meanings. If there is, then this one might just be incidental. But assuming she was properly dressed now and was in that house, would she have been asked to go out because she was not well dressed? So if there was something else, we don't know. We cannot just make those claims now on the basis of asking her to leave and get properly dressed. The picture was shown there. You don't wear those kind of shades inside the chambers. I mean, and so it's evident. Okay, she was casual. Okay, and let's leave it at that. She ought to present herself properly.
Okay, sir. Moving on, in Ondo State, the APC leaders joined PDP, citing internal democracy. Ahead of the November 16th governorship elections in Ondo State, over 1,000 leaders and members of the ruling All Progressive Congress defected to the opposition People's Democratic Party. They cited lack of internal democracy within the APC and criticized the party for causing hardship and hunger in the state. The defectors, including prominent local leaders, expressed support for PDP's governorship candidate, Honorable Agboola Ajayi, pledging to work towards the rebuilding of the state if elected. PDP leadership welcomed the defectors, promising equal treatment and emphasizing their commitment to state development if victorious in the upcoming elections. Yes, sir. The stage has been set already for upcoming elections in Ondo State, sir.
Yes.
There were some issues concerning the leadership of the party and the candidates of the All Progressive Congress after the passing away of the former governor, the late governor, Akeredolu. And Ayedatiwa, the deputy, happened to present himself against the wishes of even the family of the late governor. And now we are seeing a situation where about 1,000 or more than 1,000, over 1,000 leaders and members of the APC being a stronghold of the present president. Present president has done so much to make sure of the universal nature of the APC in the Southwest, at least. And this is a state that he is deeply invested in because of late Akeredolu being his protege. And having 1,000 people, over 1,000 people leave the APC, does this spell doom for the APC in Ondo State, sir?
I would say that it is good for democracy. It is good for democracy because if you cannot have the revolution from outside, the revolution from inside is still a revolution.
Yeah.
And once you have an atmosphere where people are free to express their will and have some kind of act in ways that put a check on those who are in power, it is good for democracy. Now, whatever happens in the elections, but the party would have this in their history, that their actions at some point or inactions cause people to defect in this number. At least they are enjoying some good level of tension and anxiety now.
Exactly.
And so they become mindful next time in making sure that everybody is on the board and that issues are done properly. So you don't give such number of people the opportunity to create a tension for the party in this kind of manner. And why I said it's good for democracy too is that the reasons that they gave, we saw what happened before the last general elections in times of internal democracy all over the country, in all the parties, especially with the two leading political parties. The nature and the manner of the conventions that they had. And you cannot talk about democracy being entrenched and being stabilized in a developing country like ours if you ignore internal democracy. You cannot have a dictatorship at the base and have democracy at the top and call it democracy. Because the absence of democracy within the party is actually some form of dictatorship. Yes, you impose candidates that you now give to the rest of the country to choose. That is if we actually do the choosing. So whatever shakes the table and opens up the space and gives people the opportunity to make the decisions, because that's what democracy is supposed to be, is good for our democracy. Now, as to whether the deputy governor came out, whether the family of the ex-governor favored his coming out or not, is for me very secondary.
Okay.
If the family is so entrenched and feels they have a pride of place and they are not happy with the deputy, let them present another candidate and see if the candidate flies. But the other side of it is that constitutionally, a deputy is actually there, elected with this person, that if anything happens to the governor, the deputy comes in. But people just carry on like the deputy is just there for just being deputy. And when the governor is no longer there, any other person can be brought and imposed, as if the deputy is not a human being, has no choice, and cannot aspire. The internal circumstances is different, but I'm just speaking on the basis of the general principles.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Concerning the choice of candidates in any political party.
Yes.
I know there's a direct method and there's the indirect method using delegates.
Yes.
Which do you propose that Nigerians should adopt to ensure that there is internal democracy in each of the parties that present candidates, sir? So in order to forestall such reasons to make such large group of people decamp from one party to another. I know we are not yet ideological, but at least in selection of the candidates for the different parties, should we adopt the direct or we go ahead with the indirect?
Now, it depends on the particular offices being vied for.
Okay.
And also it depends on a whole lot of other things, logistics and all that.
Okay.
And the party constitution too. In fact, most parties allow for those options. So direct election would be the preferred option. But if you don't have direct election and you're also using delegate system, if the delegate system is allowed to be transparent, it will still produce an outcome that will be very close, if not the same with the direct election. Why do I say that? Okay. If you allow delegates to be properly elected, that at the base, there is contest, they know why they were being elected, the people at the localities know those who have the capacity to stand straight and speak their mind. And if those people are elected and they now go up to elect, being conscious of what they were sent for, the outcomes might not be too different from what a direct election might produce. But the parties sometimes look at the cost and logistics and all that, and then opt for that delegate system. Sometimes, too, the delegate system just makes it very easy for the process to be hijacked by money bags because you have fewer people to pay and to control. It is easier for your permutations to work out exactly the way you want it. But the people are the core. If the people are informed and they are involved enough in the politics, if they elect, the process is corrupted and they don't have the preferred candidate within the party. We have seen that happen so many times where the party members vote against the candidate of their party because the wrong candidate was imposed on them. They say, okay, you can have your way at the party level, but you cannot control my vote in the general elections. And the party also need to be conscious of that. Okay. Now, if ultimately the votes count, and you know that these persons have the liberty, they can vote against the candidate you imposed on them in the local, then you will have to be careful with making sure that their choices are preserved. Okay, sir. So that is how the whole system works. Okay, sir.
But juxtaposing it with what was tenable here in Rivers State concerning the emergence of Siminalayi Fubara as the candidate of the PDP. There were running battles between the former governor and some other political stakeholders from all different corners of the state concerning his Siminalayi Fubara's emergence and all that. Was it because of the method of choosing Siminalayi Fubara, or was it because they felt it was an imposition?
You're talking about the PDP now?
Yes, sir.
Or with respect to the whole election?
No,
the emergence of...
yes, within the PDP. Because the crisis in the state is within the PDP.
Yes.
So I'm saying that there were issues with some stakeholders and the former governor because of the emergence of Siminalayi Fubara. Was it because it was an indirect mode of selecting the party candidate?
No, but this crisis has nothing to do with how Siminalayi emerged. It is more about the politics or the influence peddling between the former governor and the current governor.
Yeah, the former governor feels that he had imputed so much in about the emergence.
Yes, he has said it publicly, he has said it several times. His supporters also insist that's more like Siminalayi is his investment, so to say. And then he has but that is part of the vanity that we should begin to be mindful of. You're dealing with an entire state, you're dealing with a full-blown grown man, and you think you have all what it takes to hoodwink everybody and have your way at all costs. This is part of the example that shows that it doesn't always work the way we think. And this is part of why I think that maybe this crisis is even a blessing in disguise for Rivers people. If they have been working together and agreed from the beginning, and similarly does everything that the governor expects, this state will be in trouble. This state would have been losing a whole lot to the interest of very small people, very few people. But with this crisis, for one area that is very clear, very evident now, imagine that the IGR in the states used to be about 12 billion. And now that IGR is about 26.
We have proof of facts to that effect.
The governor said so.
That's his say so.
No, that is the sitting governor. He was a former accountant general in the state. And we should believe his word. Have anybody countered it?
We need facts, sir.
Nobody have countered it now.
Let's work with facts, sir.
And then, look. It benefits the state because if their fight is now making issues that most people will not know about. The governance, leadership roles, opportunities to come out more. But what we are saying, and sometimes it is normal in a democracy, but they have to be careful to know when not to cross the line, when not to take their agitations and differences to a level where it generates conflict in the society and begin to plunge the state needlessly into tension. That is it.
Okay, sir, but if in this same course of actions, and Siminalayi is due to also hand over to a new governor when the time comes, and he adopts the same pattern of choosing his candidate, is he not going to still be an effective godfather too, to want to impose his own will just as it is?
But he's in the best position to know that that pattern is a close. There's no road there. Where has it worked? Except Lagos State and the conditions under which it has worked. The Lagos dynamics is somewhat different from most of these other states. The ethnic factor, for instance, and all that. And nobody knows the costs of that kind of arrangement in Lagos, the price that they are paying and the cost of it. But he should learn from history, learn from his experience to know that there is no assurance in that charade. There's no assurance.
So he cannot impose a candidate and expect things to change?
You do not impose a candidate and expect that after you have left, you be a godfather. Even your own son. If you bring your own son into governance in that manner and expect that you have a puppet that you can control at will when you're not in power yourself, you might get the shock of your own life. Your own son, not to talk about any other person.
Sir, in choosing the caretaker committee chairman, don't you think it was for those who are more vociferous in the attack against the FCT minister that were chosen to fill in the positions of the...
You have moved from this side to another matter altogether now. Okay? Appointing caretaker committee chairman, especially any form of appointment under a democracy, the governor will, or whoever is the appointing officer, will look for people that share his views about leadership, that will work with him. So in a state of crisis, for instance, like this, one sure thing is that you're not going to pick anybody that is likely going to be working against you, that has sympathy for the opposition. Nobody will do that. That you will use them or recruit them as active partisans and foot soldiers is a secondary matter. But you will want to be sure, for instance, that you're not appointing anybody that has serious affiliation with the opposition. Nobody will empower his enemy. Somebody that he perceives as an enemy. Oh. Because the person will not even work with you in the first place, might become a snitch, or might be somebody that will corrupt your own system. The least they can do.
I was thinking he will go into the level of finding a way of mediation, of placation, of trying to merge both cliques, instead of creating a clean, straight dichotomy.
In the heat of this crisis, maybe appoint half of the people that...
So that's where the test of leadership comes.
No, not in the Nigerian setting. Not in the Nigerian setting. No. It would have been shocking if he should do that.
Wow.
No, it would have been shocking. There are a lot of Rivers people, a lot of good minds that are not involved with the crisis. That should be the place to go. You cannot just go to an active partisan, somebody that is working actively against you, and pick somebody from there. Not that the person lost the election and said, okay, let there be peace, but the person is working actively to derail your regime, and you bring the person inside. Who does that? But there are a lot of other people that are not deeply involved, that are neutral, that are serious-minded Rivers people, that when given the opportunity, they will be, they are dispassionate enough to handle governance with serious sense of responsibility. And there is no lack of the people to handle such positions.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We have been speaking to Dr. Kene from the Department of Political Science, University of Port Harcourt, right here in Rivers State. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll go straight into the remaining topics for discussion. Do stay with us and don't move a muscle.
To representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the Tonte. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on The Fact Today. On ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people. All of
leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought a very family. Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics Today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honourable
you human
on the point of order.
Honourable
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is one salad of collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth. The oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the Tonte. Who can come and...
It's my pleasure to welcome you back to Open Conversation on Atlantic Television Network, right here in the big city of Port Harcourt. We have been discussing and dissecting political analysis and issues with Dr. Nelson V.C. Okene of the Department of Political Science, University of Port Harcourt. He has not only been enlightening us, but also educating us on the present political situations all around the country. And to guide us, let's move on to other topics for his analysis. In Sokoto State, the Muslim Rights Concern has strongly criticized the Sokoto State House of Assembly for passing the Emirate Council Amendment Bill, which requires the Sultan of Sokoto to seek government approval before appointing key officials. Murik, along with other Muslim groups, views this as an attempt to weaken the Sultanate Council and undermine traditional authority. They accuse the state governor of political motives and assert that the bill threatens the autonomy of traditional institutions. The bill's passage has sparked concerns over state authority and traditional governance roles in Sokoto State. Yes, sir. There is an overriding proposition prior to this that the traditional institution should be the fourth tier of government after the local government. But the local government is still fighting for autonomy. Should the traditional institutions be instituted as a tier of government, and should they be given autonomy from the state and local government, sir?
You know...
right before we start discussing on the present issue that brought up this.
You know, when you get certain things wrong, you create other problems. And at times, the only way to correct the problem is to go back again to the foundation. And so for me, I think that a whole lot of this crisis was the 1976 local government reforms. Okay. That's the beginning of the entire crisis. At that time, it appeared that the military government was able to somehow regiment the entire civil society, because normally the military will want a control and command structure that allows them to influence the nooks and crannies of the entire society, just like they do within the military. But they overreached themselves because in a federal system of government, the federal government has no power, no right to interfere with what is happening in the subordinate areas, especially with respect to certain serious constitutional issues like power sharing like this. So see how the whole thing was generated. You have a federal government, you have the subordinate, which is now the states, yes, from the regions to the states, yes, and you have now reached beyond the states to create local governments and assign them constitutional powers.
Yes.
But that same constitution grants the state certain powers to for the control, the supervision, the financing, not directly, yes, but through the joint accounting, yes, over local government. It's all a mess. If the federal government have stayed where they are, created certain general supervisory principles, and allow the states or the subordinate units to fashion out their own local governance systems. By now, after some period of wobbling, states will be learning from each other. Yeah. You might have different structures, but it will work for everybody. But now you continue. If you turn the traditional rulers into the fourth tier, as you have suggested, yes, and I was just laughing. Yes, then very soon you will create another fifth tier. You create another sixth tier. At what point are we going to stop? And what do we call this? A unitary government, a federal system, and who will be controlling the traditional system, local rulers when you create that tier? Is it the federal? Is it the state? Is it the local government? And the use of this time that we have all made so popular in a Nigerian system, autonomy, yes, local government autonomy. Now, traditional rulers are looking for autonomy. Exactly. The word autonomy is synonymous with independence. And you cannot have an independent part within a dependent whole. You cannot have an independent local government within a dependent... The state itself is dependent on the federal. Exactly. Yes, it has some constitutional, but the federal, it gets its financing from the federal.
In that our system is a quasi-unitary federal.
Yes. So how do you talk about independent local government? Okay. How will it look like when the local governments all become independent of the states? What is the state governing? What is the state controlling? And then the federal can completely usurp the governance of a state through the local government, while the state governor now begins to float. How do you create those kind of structures?
Okay, I understand, sir. But concerning the recent debacle at Kano State, yes, with the former governor Ganduje and his creation of 5 other emirates from the existing emirates of Kano, and Yusuf, the present governor, coming to restructure, or
in Sokoto?
Yes, in Kano State.
Kano, yes,
because that is the background that led to what's happening now. And prior to now, Sokoto State had come out to say that we are not having anything to do with tampering with the seats of the Sultan. But right here, they have passed a second reading concerning the structure of the Sultanate Council. And to merge it up, there's a news report here to merge both together. Says a former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, has advocated for constitutional recognition and protection of traditional institutions in Nigeria. He emphasized that these institutions play crucial roles in local governance, economic activities, and maintaining peace. Atiku expressed concerns over state governments exerting undue influence on traditional rulership processes, which he believes threaten stability. He called for constitutional reforms to define the responsibilities of traditional offices and appealed to state governors to respect these institutions as custodians of cultural heritage and peacekeepers within communities. This kind of expands the roles.
Okay, you have raised a lot of issues. Yes, Let me start with the Vice President's call.
Okay, sir.
First, he's playing the role that is expected of him as an opposition leader. As an opposition leader, you want to intervene in the politics and governance to, one, take advantage of the missteps or perceived missteps of the sitting government to increase your place or your acceptance with the populace, and to offer what you perceive as alternatives to what the government is doing. Because then any opposition party is seen as a government in waiting.
Exactly.
Right. So he's playing that role well in doing this. But what I now ask is, he was a vice president for 8 years.
Exactly.
How much of the constitutional role did he play or did he advocate for the traditional rulers when he was vice president?
Exactly.
He's still within the office of the presidency. He was at the highest, he was involved with the highest policy-making level of the government for 8 whole years. Yeah. Why did he not advocate it then? The other thing to note and bring to the fore is that the model of the state that we are practicing now, the model European state, the state system is very jealous of any institution that threatens its legitimacy or its authority. The state system is structured in such a way that the state is the final arbiter. And there's been this issue of traditional rulers and the role, with all due respect to the traditional institution and to traditional rulers. But the moment traditional rulers begin to make statements and act in ways that show that they are peddling influence and trying to contest the space with political actors, then they run into this kind of crisis. Okay. And there have been a number of issues that have predisposed the traditional institutions to this kind of manipulation. One, they are being paid by the governors.
Exactly.
And they are creating, they are being promoted by the governors. When they create new structures to promote them from second class to first class, they will not complain. But when they now say, okay, we need to divide more and reduce those who are there, they complain. But if they, previously, they manage themselves in such a way that they don't make open inflammatory statements. They try to be neutral during elections, and then support all the candidates, give them the room as fathers of the system. They were more insulated from politics. But the moment they come out more and more and play a stronger role in politics, then the more politicians we see them like, we need to deal with this people and put them in their place. The other side is that for democracy to really grow, and that's the positive side now, for democracy to grow, every other hegemonic institution in society needs to be atomized, needs to be broken down. Their influences and powers need to reduce. Previously in Nigerian politics, well, to a large extent it still holds, but it's reducing. Okay, sir. When the emirs in the north speak and back a candidate, the masses, they follow.
Yeah, like a block vote.
Like a block vote. And it hurts the interests of certain political actors. And now, when you are reducing their power and influence, it also means that the citizens will now be coming out of the hold, the control of the traditional institution, and then democracy will be having its own advantage because the citizens will now be better empowered. And so these are all the things that are playing at the ground. And then additionally, even for the current political actors, if what they are doing is not supported by the masses, under a normal democracy where votes count, then during the elections they will be paid. They will get paid because the masses, the citizens will not be happy with them. But if we still create a system where it appears as if we are having an election when we are actually having a selection, then they can get away with it. Yes. So the people are the ones that actually have the power. And when you begin to go against the institutions and values that they hold there, then they will pay you. They will sack you and elect another person.
Yes, sir.
So let's move more towards allowing democracy to work. And all these things will gradually fall into place.
So do traditional institutions have any role or any place or any value to play in a democracy such as ours?
What is democracy really? Democracy is a system that allows the people to be in charge of their own affairs, to use a very simple way of expressing it. And the traditional rulers are not part of the system. They're a very large, good part of our system.
Being that some of them have pre-colonial,
our
some
values,
of them have pre-colonial influence, and some of them still bear some of that pre-colonial vestiges within themselves.
No, under the pre-colonial system, the traditional rulers were the governors. They were the presidents, so to say.
Yes, sir.
They were in charge. They controlled the system. And that is where this whole thing is coming from. Now, the colonial regime brought a new state and governance structure and pulled people together, created new governance institutions and all that, and pulled this power away from the traditional rulers to now elected representatives and all that.
Exactly.
So naturally, there will be some form of tension between these institutions that are used to the power and the influence and the new people. Yeah. And that have continued. But as to whether the traditional rulers still have value under this dispensation, yes. They still have a lot of influence. They have a lot to contribute. There are a whole lot of our cultural issues and values where they hold sway and where their counsel, their experience, their wisdom helps. In crisis situations also, the respect they enjoy from the masses have a whole lot of role to play.
Exactly.
But they need to recognize that you cannot have two captains in the same ship. To the extent that the governors are now and the president are now those who control the affairs of the society through the instrumentality of the states, they must align with that. When they play roles that appear to be threatening public office holders, governors, and presidents, then they will run into this problem.
Some of those seats, the occupiers of most of these traditional institutions, are by rights embedded in their own traditions, not to be tampered with.
Yes.
So like the stool of the Sultan of Sokoto, it's not just traditional, it's also religious. He's the Al-Amin of all Muslims in Nigeria as a whole. So it's much more beyond the scope of Sokoto State. And a few politicians want to change that, just as it was tampered with in Kano State. And per se, they have a role to play in our sociocultural and our existence as a country. We cannot do away with the traditional institutions. And meanwhile, the politicians who select them, who want their loyalty, and they are supposed to be apolitical. Do we beat the baby and expect the baby not to cry, sir?
Again, I want to look at it from a very broad view. If you look at the history of this country and our challenges with democracy, it will appear that the ethnic and religious institutions have seemed to overreach themselves and are playing roles that are pulling and dragging the state down. Even though these state governors are acting in their own particular parochial self-interest. But the overall effect of what is happening now is that these institutions and the kind of role and influence they have had on democracy and the power will be reduced over time. And democracy and the people will have more say in the affairs of the state. Then on the other hand, it's also a pointer that to the fact that there is division within the leadership cadre in society, because they have managed to coexist before now, and the extent to which they coexist and live in peace is the extent to which the masses are suffering or are losing. So when they have these issues, we should embrace it and allow them to run the full course and sort out themselves. The masses should embrace it and be happy with it. What has the masses got to lose?
Okay, because I see that if in this instance the chairman of the Traditional Rulers Council of Nigeria in Rivers State was removed from office by the present governor because he felt that his loyalty was in doubt. And he has replaced him with another traditional ruler who he feels that he can work with. So these traditional rulers that are supposed to be apolitical are still forced by the same political class to still choose sides, and we are still blaming them for choosing sides.
That office of chairman of Traditional Rulers Council is a political office. It's a political creation. That office is political. Yes, that office is different from your domain as a traditional ruler in your own kingdom. Or I think they have constitution and you have tenure, but governors have always also meddled with them and changed them. That office is political. And so to the extent that it is political and it is sponsored, that office is also sponsored by the states in terms of what it takes for them to run. So the governors have some level of influence over who governs and who rules in those places.
What about the issue of Kano State and Sokoto State right now? Should they, since it's concerning the traditional stool itself, should it be always tampered with because of...
That is part of what I've been saying, that there are a whole lot of negotiations that are going on in society that cannot just be put in a mold. The House of Assemblies that are doing this change of laws are elected from all the communities, all the different constituencies. And they are the ones actually changing these laws. They are members of that same society. They are also Muslims. Are they comfortable with creating a system where the powers of the emirs are completely stripped and they are put at the mercy of a sitting governor. If they are if they are under the control of the states, they should share the powers in such a way that one person does not have an express control over the governor and the assembly. So there's some form of check so that the abuse is reduced. But if they are all carrying on that same assignment under the influence of the governor, it's either there is something they have now seen that is wrong with the system they need to correct, or they have found a way to take advantage and reduce the influences of the governor. Maybe it's political, maybe the emirs are meddling too much with the affairs of the state or something. But these things will work out themselves with time. Now, if the masses are not in support of it or are not happy with it, then or even the entire Muslim faithfuls within those states can vote out any governor, any assembly member to show that they are not happy. And that's how democracy works. If you do what you're doing and it is not put any policy in place and it's not in agreement with the people, then they reward you with voting you out. Yes, the next person comes in and he will know not to touch those issues.
Okay, sir. But concerning Atiku Abubakar as a person,
yes,
as a political stakeholder, he has been meeting with some former generals and former heads of state, and also the past president, Muhammadu Buhari. Although Shehu Sani called it a trek of a desert trek, and some other political players have seen it as a way of garnering support to remove the sitting president from his positions. Do you think that Atiku Abubakar is trying to play on the conscience of Nigerians through the traditional institutions, adding them as also a support bloc with the former generals to lay his positions very well in finding a way of removing present president from seats come 2027? And is he going to succeed?
If you say removing the president from seats come 2027, that expression is somehow. Because in 2027 there will be an election.
Yes, sir.
And there is no law in this country that said that if you have been elected, you must have a second term. It's Nigerian. In fact, the press have made it look like once you're elected for 4 years, 8 years is automatic. It's not so. There is room for all those who are qualified and are interested to contest. And if they win the support of the people, then the incumbent will step down. It has happened before, and it can happen again. So a sitting president already has an advantage that none of the people that want to contest with him will have. That advantage is to use the resources and the opportunity and the privileges and the powers conferred upon him by the Constitution to govern in the interest of the people. And when you do that effectively, then there is no kind of campaign that the opposition will do that will reduce your influence. And the fact that you also have in the Nigerian parlance now the power of incumbency, which they use to turn themselves into magicians during elections, then that again speaks to the power.
Yes.
And even when you choose to do the right thing or follow the constitutional stipulations for elections to the book, it will be difficult, if not impossible, for an outsider to use the instrument of the state against you when you are a sitting president. So that is advantage upon advantage upon advantage. The fact that as a sitting president or governor, you also have the privilege to appoint a whole lot of advisors, appoint people into this and that, and all those people are also leaders in their own rights. Yeah. And when they have done well, and they are appreciative of you giving them the opportunity to serve, the chances are, in fact, it's almost automatic that they will also campaign for you and pool all their influences, their resources to support you. Another level of advantage. So if an outsider in this respect, a contestant, removes you from office, it shows that you were a colossal failure during your tenure in office. So we cannot just call it removal like if it's a coup. No, it's a democratic process. So if you don't want to be removed then do the right thing. Reduce the suffering of Nigerian masses. Empower the people. Use the authority and power and the influence you are given for good.
Okay, sir, there has been a gentlemanly agreement. I don't know if we should push for it to be written in the Constitution, but there is a gentlemanly agreement between the northern region of the country and the southern region in provision of presidency, most importantly. And for now, after President Muhammadu Buhari's 8 years, it has come back to the south. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a representative of the south. If Atiku Abubakar is making plans and making moves in succeeding in or contesting and succeeding President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is that not going to upset that agreement that has been in place, sir?
As we speak now, the constitution of the country gives rights to anybody to contest the election at any time. And even if you say it should be in the south, then it means that other people who are contesting from the south can also take over. It must not be only the sitting president. Okay. But until it is constitutional, it is not. If it's an agreement among political parties, how far have they really kept it? The masses and the different elements that influence the politics of the country seem to have already been flowing with that understanding. But I think we have reached the stage where we should be more interested in who has the ability and the capacity and the interest of the citizens at heart to pull us out of this doldrum that we have found ourselves. The level of suffering and poverty and insecurity and all whatnot, I don't think that the color, the name, or the ethnic nationality that the president comes from should be more important than the economic survival and the peace and unity of this nation.
Yeah, sir, that was said during the regime of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan.
Yes.
And Muhammadu Buhari came in and he did not make things easier.
Yes.
If we stick by that proposition, is it not going to be a reflection of what has been, what we are still suffering?
Now, do you know who is going to come in, assuming the current president continues in a manner that does not give him the advantage in the next general election and he loses? You cannot tell who is going to come in next. Okay. Even between now and the next election, it's a long time. First, we need to pray for life first and health. We need to pray for the unity of this nation. We need to pray for that we have one nation and we have everything going well in the next general election. We'll talk about who is going to come in.
Exactly, sir.
It's still a long way to go. There's still a whole lot that can happen.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
All right, moving to the final discussion topic for today. Vice President Kashim Shettima emphasized that President Bola Tinubu is not working against northern Nigeria's interests. Speaking in Kano during a condolence visit, Shettima highlighted appointments of northern figures in key roles as evidence of Tinubu's commitment to regional growth. He urged Nigerians to support Tinubu's efforts for national development beyond party lines, stressing unity and collective responsibility in governance. Shettima also called for political unity and cooperation across parties, emphasizing that Nigeria's progress requires collective efforts and should transcend partisan divisions. So there has been insinuations that President Tinubu is aggravating the sensibilities and sensitivities of the northern oligarchs and populists. Does that statement in any way, is there any truth in that statement, sir?
There's no truth in it, and I don't think it is proper for any section of this country to carry on as if the country belongs to them alone. It's not conducive for collective survival of Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
It's not conducive. And I will understand the fact that some elements in the north are feeling as if they are left out, as if Tinubu is not, because the way and manner the former President Buhari managed ethnic sensibilities in this country was nothing to write home about. He gave the North the impression that everything belongs to them, and made appointments in a manner that did not appear to respect the federal character principle. And so, under a new president, when the advantage that they had, so to say, have been whittled down a bit in order to accommodate other sections, is now looking as if this president is against them. Like the behavior of a spoiled child that wants everything for himself alone. And if you just take a little to give to the other person, even though he still has a lot more, he's now already feeling deprived. And I completely agree with the vice president, whether he's saying it out of trying to be politically correct, or whether he believes what he's saying. I agree completely with him. We should go beyond looking at everything from just a very narrow point of view. This nation has a lot of ethnic groups. There are so many ethnic groups that have not come anywhere close to power at the center. And they are still Nigerians. So we should know that this country belongs to all of us. And in terms of these appointments, some persons might say Tinubu is also unduly favoring the West as we speak. But we should work towards creating a system that balances power and influences, so that those who are in power do not leave power today and the next minute they are now crying of victimization. Because the people that are in power will want to use power the same way they used it the previous time.
Exactly, sir.
All these things will create desperation for holding power, and that circle is not good for the development of this country. We should create just structures that balances power sharing arrangements, whether particular ethnic groups are in power or not. And that will be better for the development of the nation.
Yes, sir, because there's an issue still brewing. It has not gotten to the top, concerning the Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, asking for, because they sense that ranching could come into effect, and with ranching, they should go to most of those cattle rearers and herders, which has caused a lot of commotion between there and the farmers and affecting food production, have been asked to move over to pastoralist states which can accommodate cattle rearing as a business. And MACBAN is not favored towards that, being that they ask for the freedom to do business wherever they wish to do business. And this might be a nucleus towards this perceived neglect per se by the North, or saying that Tinubu is not paying so much attention to the North. Do you think that ranching as a business should be, the MACBAN should be given the rights to move their cattle wherever they want to, or that the ranching as a policy should take place outside the states that do not accommodate herding, free roaming of cattle and herding, sir?
I don't think it is proper in any state for anybody to have the right to use their own business to destroy other people's business and livelihood. I mean, it's common sense that even within those states where you have the pastoralist dominant, there are still people who farm. Yeah. They still produce crops. And those people have a right to their business, a right to protect their livelihood. I mean, common sense has it that your rights stops where my own rights begins. And it's for the sake of collective survival. People must accommodate the interests of others. So, and there's been an old law that I came across that recently, that was an old judgment to the effect that cattle ranching is the way to go. people who do farming outside this country, in the West and all that, you do it inside a ranch. Whether it is in Sokoto or Katsina or Rivers State or Bayelsa, it does not matter. So you can control. Even in our villages growing up those days, we used to have goats roam around, eat whatever they want. And when the communities realized that these goats were spoiling and destroying, the community announced, and everybody now had to fence in their goats. You build a small place, you go get within the communities. It's like that in my community now. If you have any goat now, people are permitted to kill the goats because that goat is causing a problem for the entire community. So it is the same thing. Let us have a sense of accommodation for the good of this nation. Nobody is supposed to exist at the expense of the other person. So I don't think that is part of the claim. Maybe there are a few other things, but generally those who are accustomed to power, once they are not getting all that they want, begin to feel that they are now left out or they are grumbling. They need to now develop a mindset that, look, other people also have a right to the same power. And that will create the peace. And after all, the vice president is there.
Yes. But he's saying that, he making comments here that for political unity, parties are not supposed to be, everybody should disregard divisions. And is that not just mere political speech?
It is political. He has enjoyed the support of the governor of the state, and then he's just it's an appeal of Kano State. It's an appeal for unity and issue-based response and governance after the election cycle. But you cannot eliminate all those divisions. The party systems are already different. The politicking will continue. But there is need for moderation so that governance can actually take place after elections.
Okay, so it's not entirely an utopia.
No, it's not. It's not entirely utopia.
Okay, so Nigeria will get to that point where we can, at a point, forget about politicking and go into governance.
Yes. Even now, yes, at some levels, it's still happening.
Okay. We have been discussing with a political analyst of repute, Dr. Nelson V.C. Okene, from the Department of Political Science of the University of Port Harcourt. It has been a swell time. We have been learning from him. And we ask you to join us same time tomorrow for another very exciting episode. And by God's grace, we will get him to come back here on another day to give us more from his well of wisdom. It's a pleasure having you here, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for enlightening us, sir.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And from me, Raymond Ken Mbata, your host, standing in for Laurentia Ogu, I say peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Do well to join us on our social media platforms, on Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X, formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. So watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Stay tuned for transition news coming up next. Thank you.
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of God.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she sent me